prayer for Commissioner Andy Roman.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Whitehall Township has an obligation to affirmatively further fair housing and to review all land use applications in accordance with federal civil rights statutes. This includes taking meaningful actions that overcome patterns of segregation and foster inclusive communities free from barriers that restrict access to opportunity based on protected characteristics. The township in its land use decisions does not discriminate against persons based on race, color, national origin, religion, sex, disability, or familial status, and reviews all land use applications in accordance with civil rights statutes. Public comments made on the basis of bias and stereotype concerning people within these protected classes will not be taken into consideration by the township in its deliberations. I'd also like to make an announcement. We held an executive session last Monday, the 5th of December, after our workshop that pertained to legal and personnel matters. We also held our curative amendment hearing on Thursday, December 1st, 2022, in this room. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any comments? Please pull the board.
Commissioner Ginder?
Yes.
Commissioner Atiyah?
Yes.
Commissioner
Warren? I'm going to abstain because I was not here at the meeting.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Sloniker, aye. And President Marks?
Yes.
Approved, 5 ayes and 1 abstention.
Is there an issue with the feedback?
Yeah, there is.
Okay.
It's the volume of the TV. If we had the TV remote.
I'd also like to announce that we're going to limit discussion to 3 minutes tonight. Mr. Fisher volunteered to be the timekeeper, so please be considerate. Thank you. Courtesy of the floor.
Robert Pelagian?
Good evening, Commissioners. Rob Pelagian, 415 Oakwood Drive. As you know, I've been in front of you several times, many times over the past year and a half. I will reserve any questions or comments dealing with the sexual harassment charges.
Can you hold up one?
Certainly.
We still have that echo.
Yeah, it's still coming out of
This TV.
The button's on the TV?
Try it now. Try it now.
Can you hear me?
Test. No,
Yeah, it's still echoing. You were turning it down, but it wasn't all the way. It was at 35. It wasn't all the way down. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going.
down.
Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going.
Yeah, it went
Keep
down.
going.
It
One
went
more.
down.
One more.
Test, test. A little better.
It's as good as it's going to get.
All right, Mr. Pelagian, sorry.
That's okay. I'll reserve my comments for Resolution 3227 because I believe that's when they'll be germane. But I do have a question concerning the potential referendum concerning the financial officer's position. It's been brought to my attention, and I neglected to do research on this, so I apologize. But my understanding is that there's a provision within the charter that prohibits elected officials from applying and/or being retained or hired by the township for 1 year following the end of their service. And my question pertains to the current treasurer, Mrs. Corrin, concerning this fiscal officer or fiscal position that's proposed. Is there any possibility that that provision can be waived in the immediate for her to be able to at least apply for that position. Because I think the township owes her a debt of gratitude, considering she's had to wade through the nightmare that was left by the former treasurer. And from all reports that I've heard, both from the commissioners, also from her, and my own personal experience, I think she's done an outstanding job, and I think it would be a shame to lose her skill, her experience, and her tenure because of this charter provision.
I'm going to defer to our solicitor and see if Mr. Gross would like to comment on this.
I'd have to investigate that matter and get back to you. I'm not prepared to give an opinion tonight.
I know that it was challenged once before, I believe, by a former township executive, and he was successful in his challenge. So I hope that the commissioners would at least consider this because of what she's done. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken Snyder, your address, please, then, when you get up.
I would like to yield my time towards recovering the budget, and will the budget section be limited to 3 minutes as well?
And again, you have to give your address and whatnot. You failed to put it down here, so.
Ken Snyder, 4272 Abigail Lane in Whitehall. I'd like to yield my 3 minutes now. And the question I have is, when we get to the budget item, is that going to be a 3-minute limit as well?
It'll be within reason, Mr. Schneider.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jeff and Christy Vivian. I'll get it right.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Please state your name and address, sir.
My name is Jeff Vivian. My wife is Christy Vivian. We live at 2623 Halleck Drive in Whitehall here. The reason for my presence and my wife's presence is it's taken us a little bit of time, but we were directly impacted by the accident on 145 that took the life of Mia Dew. And we have a personal attachment to that accident. And we wanted to address the commissioners because we've tried to address several people in this township about a recurring problem on MacArthur Road and in Whitehall. And that is, you have a development that's been going on over the last 3 months where individuals have gathered by the masses at the giant parking lot, specifically more by the T-Mobile parking lot. And it is in excess of about 100 to 150 cars. And as a resident and as a parent and as a friend who lost, who watched their friends bury their daughter, those people in that parking lot, while they may have good intentions, they are gathering and proceeding to race up and down MacArthur Road in excess speeds of over double the speed limit. You're looking at 80, 90, 100 miles an hour. And I've tried to reach out to various people in this township to get some sort of resolution. So I'm hoping tonight I can learn as much from you as you can learn from me. I don't know if the commissioners were aware of this problem, but it was evident up until the end of October, beginning of November, and it was literally every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. We can hear them from our back porch. The speed is ridiculous. It seems that there's a gambling element to this. I don't know for sure, but watching two friends bury their daughter, it is a matter of time before these speeds claim another child. And I've looked into and I've tried to talk to people about whether traffic cameras to ensure that red lights aren't run, to reach out to state police to ensure that speeds on Friday night, because from what I'm informed, the police are shorthanded. And I understand that's a societal issue. It's not just here prevalent in Whitehall, but we have to do something because the speed of this traffic is increasing. Lives are being put on the line, and we have several dangerous intersections within a few short feet of our house and our school district that make it relatively easy that another student will lose their life within the next coming period of time. So I don't know if you can educate me on who I need to talk to, what needs to be done to ensure that both my daughter, my two daughters, my friends, and every schoolmate that attends this school has some sort of resolution through this township that we take it upon ourselves not to wait for another girl to pass away and be buried, that this township will become proactive in trying to at least curtail one of these aspects, okay? Whether it's the group coming together, and I'm told that you can't kick people off of private property because technically that's the landlord's responsibility to get a hold of the police. On Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, there's too many domestic violence and Narcan calls for the police to be able to be active, to pull one of them over and cite them for excessive speed. There's just too short-handed of a staff to be able to be proactive in this manner. But I assure you, as a citizen, not only is the speed an issue, I've watched people almost take my life going down MacArthur Road in excessive speed and running a red light way after the acceptable time frame. And I'm just hoping that between all the development that you guys have okayed between the Sears, the Wawas, all that development, that there is some sort of resolution to traffic cameras, to increased police, to reaching out to state police, something to ensure the safety of these kids. I'll yield to your time.
Chief Marks, Assistant Chief Mazzatelli, would you like to comment on this? And
I don't think it's something that can be solved right here at this table right now. I mean, for the second year in a row, we've had a record amount of citations that have been given out by the police officers on the staff. You're absolutely correct. We can't go around and kick people off the property. That's one thing that we cannot do. And so far to this point, we haven't had any businesses step up to say, we don't want this activity on our property, because they're afraid of the ramifications on the back end. That being said, we are aware of the situation. We do cite as much as we can with the staff that we have. And again, for the second year in a row, we've issued a record number of citations, stopped a record number of vehicles. And I think that says a lot to what the officers on the street, how much they do take this to heart. But again, the personal responsibility of these actions of these individuals is what is the baseline issue here. I know in my tenure and in my time in Whitehall, I've seen driving across the Commonwealth, across the country, get worse. I don't know what the precipitating cause of that is, but I do know that it isn't getting any better. Red lights are almost an option at this point in some of the intersections. And that's not just in Whitehall Township, that's across multiple jurisdictions of ones I drive through in my off time. So we will continue to do what we're doing. I can't make any promises that it will make the overall situation better, because I think this is a societal issue, to be honest with you. It's not just a Whitehall Township issue. I hear this same thing go on across communities, at least in our local jurisdiction that we discuss at our chiefs meetings. And everybody's trying to find the same solution to this. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think writing the amount of tickets that I know we do doesn't seem to be putting a dent in it as much as I would like. And that's the unfortunate part. That's the best answer I can give you. We're going to continue to do what we do. As we add staff, we'll be able to do more with those kind of measures. And I know the state police do come in from time to time to assist, but they're also short-staffed. The state's down almost 500 troopers right now. So it's a tough time right now for law enforcement across the board.
If I may ask a quick question. If Mr. and Mrs. Vivian were to see something specific, can they report it to you?
Yeah, but again, Mr. Fisher, it's very limited on the citations that you can then write off of information received. A lot of the summary citations, they would have to appear in court. And that's why there's a lot of people that report reckless driving to the police department and they call it in. They don't want to go to the court date, because the officer can write a ticket on information received, but they can't testify that anything that happened. As far as red light cameras, they're not approved for municipalities in Pennsylvania. That is not an option as far as enforcement with Whitehall Township. That's the simple facts of that.
Yeah, sorry for your loss. I mean, when it happened, I could have been any of our children. My children pass there multiple times a day. I think we talked about it at one meeting about not traffic light cameras, but cameras on MacArthur Road, more or less to help deter crime and maybe help prosecute crime. And we have traffic cameras in Allentown, and I think it's time that some of our problematic intersections, we look at a way to fund those. Even they're not traffic light cameras where they're citing people that speed. You know, if there's key intersections and an accident happens, we can replicate what actually happened if we have video of it. And maybe if somebody knows that it's there, I agree with you. It might deter them from a criminal act. If they're speeding too, you know, if we have cops on duty and they're not on call, it would be nice to have visibility. Even if they pass through once, they know that they're out there. But in the state police...
This is the ongoing argument,
Yeah.
Mr. Warren. We have 162 miles of roadway, and
Right.
we have 4 officers on duty patrolling a district.
Right.
So they have to split their time between patrolling the communities, being on the highway, and being on our secondary state routes. So it's a very fine line to walk in between handling calls and making arrests. It's not we don't have the large amount of staff to draw upon on every single shift that we work.
Which was to our point is, and this is not coming down on you or the police. I spoke to, I believe I spoke to Officer Marks and several other police. The police did an awesome job in the way they went about prosecuting and eventually getting charges on this particular incident. But at this time, we can't ask a short-staffed, you know, a company, if you will, or township. Is there any way we can look into technology that can help us and get that funded to help them? And that's what I'm looking at, because helping them and funding something like that, ultimately, that light where Mia died is where most of your kids will make a left-hand turn to go into that school.
Joe, can I make a comment here? Personally, I think everybody in here can write a letter to their legislator and hope to find that you can influence them to allow radar's use in municipalities. We don't have the opportunity to do that, and the state police do, but only the state police do. The overwhelming numbers prove to us that it helps. And as Mike pointed out, of course, it takes a lot of backup after you make that arrest and citation to work on things, but it needs to be there. It just does. We're the only state in the country that doesn't allow municipal police forces to have radar. I think this is important.
I will write that letter every day of my life. And I mean, it's time as a forward-looking individual myself. I didn't come, you know, shortly after it happened, because I very rarely have an emotional response to things. I like to take my time and plan things out. But over the last couple months, witnessing that, I got to tell you, when your school holds a purple out for me to do, and then you walk directly over to get snacks for a bunch of 16, 17, and 18-year-old kids, for them to come to your house, and you're watching 200 people gather in a parking lot, bet on each other of who can race between here and the Dunkin' Donuts faster for $20. It took everything in a father and a friend's power not to do, not to say, not to escalate something, and that is the reason for my approach here today.
Also, I don't know if you're aware, the police in our last budget hearing made a requisition for 2 BMW police motorcycles that Chief Marks and his department feels will be a deterrent. So hopefully, you know, we appropriated them in the budget, and hopefully that'll be a tool that our officers can use.
Thank you for doing that.
It'll be a deterrent, you know, towards this situation.
I hope and I pray that it is.
And the city cameras are in there. Grant them.
And the city cameras grants are in there.
And please keep reaching out to us too, if you have more concerns, if there's anything that you think could be of assistance, please reach out.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And if you write those letters, let us know. We'll
Okay.
support you.
Thank you.
Susan Barthel.
Good evening.
Hi.
Susan Barthel, 3046 Birch Street South in Whitehall. I'm here to ask tonight about what are the plans for the old police station on Lehigh Street? Is anything being done about that empty spot?
It's sitting there right now, and we have a number of the value of the property. It's not being marketed yet, but it will be soon.
Okay. And let me ask about the Whitehall Farm subdivision that you're going to put, I would call it, on Lehigh Street. The owner of the land, does somebody own that land? Who owns that land?
I don't know the name of the company, but it is Abraham Attia's at this point, I believe.
Okay. And are they looking for a developer to put those 43 homes in?
I presume so.
Do you have like a timeline for this?
I
Because
don't.
traffic is going to be bad, although I know it's going to come out on Municipal Drive also. I can't picture how that you're going to put those houses in there and like loop around.
Well, they're going to need to get a highway occupancy permit, ma'am, for Lehigh Street, because that's a state road. Am I not correct, Mr. Clark? They're going to need to get approval from PennDOT in order to access Lehigh Street from the development. So that hasn't been approved, am I correct, yet? They haven't gotten their HOP approved yet. So this isn't settled yet. It's possible, but there's no way to know. PennDOT could deny their application. So at this point, we don't know that.
Okay, okay. Well, thank you.
Just one
for that.
clarification.
ahead.
The Municipal Drive connection is just an emergency access point for the township. That's not going to be a point in and point out. It will be for the existing house at the old Tate Farm, that driveway, but there is a waterway that bisects that property and the proposed Whitehall Farms development.
Okay, and my next question is, maybe you can answer it, maybe not. How close would those those new houses be in the backyards of the people on Birch Circle West?
Whatever zoning allows, there's a certain amount of space for a rear yard. So I can't remember if the rear yard is like 50 feet, rear yard minimum. I'm not certain in that zone, but probably around that range. From the mutual property line, the home will probably be at least 40 to 50 feet back.
Okay, because those houses on West Birch Circle, they have large backyards. They go back pretty far. And I just wondered how close the houses, the new houses, if this happens, will be to the existing houses.
House to house, I'm not certain. But again, the mutual property line, it's probably 40 to 50 feet.
Okay, very good. Okay, thank you, gentlemen
Thank you, ma'am.
and lady.
Anyone else?
That's all we have.
That's all we have for courtesy of the floor. I'm going to move on to public hearing and voting on ordinances. Bill number 32-2022, an ordinance of the Township of Whitehall in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania establishing a fee schedule for the collection of municipal solid waste by the Township of Whitehall. Any questions from the board? Do I have a motion? Sorry.
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second, Bishop.
Any questions from the board? Any questions from the floor? Please poll the board.
Commissioner Ginder, Yes. Commissioner Fisher? Aye. Commissioner Swaniger? Aye. Commissioner Warren? Aye. Commissioner Atiyah?
Yes.
And President Marks?
Yes.
Motion passes 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill number 33-2022, an ordinance of the Township of Whitehall in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania fixing the real estate tax rate for the year 2023. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion. Warren.
Do I have a second? Any questions from the board?
Maybe explain quickly what this means or what the real estate tax will be going forward for this year?
Stays fixed.
Stays
at
fixed?
3.8 mils.
Okay, so there will not be a tax increase this year on this?
No changes. There is no tax increase.
Thank you.
Any questions from the floor? Please poll the board.
Commissioner Warren? Aye. Commissioner Atiyah?
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Swaniger? Aye. Commissioner Ginder?
Yes.
And President Marks?
Yes.
Bill passes 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill number 34-2022, an ordinance of the Township of Whitehall in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania adopting the 2023 annual budget and appropriating specific sums estimated to be required for the specific purposes of the township government, here and after set forth during the 2023 fiscal year. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions from the board?
The question is the budget is coming after we pass the millage. Should that be before?
Mr. Solicitor?
We passed a resolution to fix the real estate taxes
It just
before we
the
passed the
semantics.
budget. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But let's,
How much revenue you have to pass the budget.
Okay.
The revenue is determined by the millage.
right.
That would be I think you and I are on the same page.
Absolutely. Any other questions from the board? Any questions from the floor? Mr. Snyder? Name, rank, and serial number, please.
Name, rank, and serial number. Ken Snyder, 4272 Abigail Lane, Whitehall. Santa Claus was real good to you guys today because I got laryngitis, so I'll try to make it.
Not you.
Not me, man. What I'd like to do is preface questions about the budget, but before I do that, I would like to thank the commissioners for taking a lot of my questions last week, and I was afforded the availability of Jack Myers and Mike Harricle to go through the budget on an item-by-item basis, and a lot of my questions were answered. It is what I would call typical government finance, which is a little tough to figure out sometimes. But if I would just go through it, I'm assuming you all have the budget in front of you, as well as Mike Harricle's letter that covers the items in the budget. And I understand there's a limited time, so I'm going to go kind of swift, okay? In his letter of 2022 addressing revenues, he indicated that we received $2.9 million from the federal government for the Recovery Act. And some of those funds are being used to balance our budget at this time. When I read that, one of the first questions I had was, how much money or improvements are going back to the residents in Whitehall Township? Specifically, earmarking that money. So I went through and I started reading different things, and I got to tell you really right up front, there's a lot of positive things in this township. I mean, I know I bust your chops for 12 months, but there are a lot of positive things in here. But I do think it's a difference of philosophy whether we raise taxes or we don't raise taxes. Your budget is currently short approximately $4.5 million. You're using your reserves to balance it, and you're using those reserves so that you don't have to raise taxes, and I understand that. On the same token, you had a windfall of $1.4 million from the federal government. And meeting after meeting, I hear you guys say things like, we don't have the money, we can't do this, we can't do that. Commissioner Ginder has a list that he refers to on a regular basis that says the things we need to do in a township. Same token, I sit on the committee for the comprehensive plan. That had a 9-month delay because of financing in trying to get that off the ground. You know I've been really pushing for that all the way through. When you read the budget, you've allocated for that. But to make it short, I want to go over some things. Number two, we get cable fees that are very good in our township. I don't think a lot of people realize that. The other thing that happens is that we had a $700,000 rebate in our township because the medical benefit was not used to the maximum. We have a healthy crew. I don't know how many people realize that, but that means that $700,000 went to the taxpayers' belly. The other thing is the grant arrangement. I can't figure out the grants and the way it works, and Mike and John try to explain it to me, but I still get a little bit lost on that. You have a $300,000 grant that increases the fire fund, relief fund. I don't want to make a big deal out of what happened in our local communities recently, but we all know that this is a hot topic in this township. We all know that firemen are not able to go out and basically occupy our trucks as required. But yet the budget does not show anything in there for a study to figure out what we got to do to move forward. That's a priority item. I've asked you last year to produce a list of 5 items you think this township should be doing forward. I believe that our budget is a good guide of what those items could or should not be, because it promotes the deficiencies as well as the things that are important that you have funded. But in this budget, you have not funded the fire department for any type of investigation to the best of my knowledge. And if I'm wrong, you can stand to correct me.
And can I interrupt you for just a
Sure.
moment? Is that okay? We discussed.
I know we did.
Okay, so we do have a grant out there that's working for us. Now, unfortunately, because of COVID, they slowed down, but we should have that grant returned within the next 4 months. So it's out there working for us now.
So Mike and I had talked, and I'm on a limited basis, and I understand that North Catasauqua, and Whitehall were working together to deal with the fire department situation. It fell apart for whatever reason, and Whitehall's standing on their own, and the grant is still in process. The problem is that grant is 2.5 years down the road, and our volunteer firemen have been cut by 50%. So we know we have a problem. When you read the budget, you can find $50,000 at a drop of a bucket to get this off the ground and not wait another 2 years for a grant. That's my point. The other thing that happens in here is that when you work your way through, there's transfers that go back and forth between all of your accounting. I would suggest that when you're working on our budget, that you prepare something called a consolidated income statement. What a consolidated income statement does, it takes all the accounts that the township has and puts them in a line so you know what is where, so you can figure out what funds are still remaining in accounts that are in reserve. There's no way to find that in this budget unless we start digging. The reason I say that is because sometimes to balance the budget, you take money out of a reserve and then allocate it in, but you don't know what's there. The balance in a Lavarge account is not even here. That's $1 million account made for capital improvements. That's what the ordinance said. We're making a pile of capital improvements. I've heard 2 numbers on that, 1.2 mil and 850,000. It is immaterial what the balance is, but what is material, that a consolidated financial statement will in fact tell you what's going on. I understand that you get that statement in March when you do your audit, or April, and that's okay. But an in-house comprehensive financial statement, consolidated, will give you a better look at where the township stands as you're doing the budget. It's not here. That's all I'm saying. It's more transparent. Regarding the traffic study, you know my daughter, and traffic cameras. There's a $265,000 item listed by Mike Harricle It's being done via a grant. We have no idea when this grant will or will not be available. But yet, you have contingency funds of $850,000 that's mandatory based on our charter to be in every budget. And when you got the $1.9 million or $2.9 million, you've given nothing back, to the best of my knowledge, in this budget to the people of Whitehall Township. I can't speak for the previous year because I didn't get a comparison in the budget. I strongly suggest that we figure a way and not always depend on grants for that particular issue. I'll leave that one for now. I know it's important for everybody to see trucks, tractors, and all the other stuff that we buy, and it's true. It's good. But there's also the fabric of our community that we need to improve. Recreation, it's been addressed in here. There's other things that go on. I can't figure out in the budget how you have an ending balance of $9,705,000, but again, a beginning balance of $11,866,000. I don't know what happens between the 31st and the 1st, and I'm sure there's an explanation, but I forgot what the answer was to that issue. But what is true, you're taking $4,500,000 that's in your budget that was excess to balance the budget and put nothing in for the property owners and the residents in Whitehall Township. Is that a correct assumption on face value without getting into detail?
If I may say, with respect to the time limits that we've tried to impose tonight, in the interest of everyone else being here, I defer to the president of the board if there's a way we can just define a very quick way that Mr. Snyder can make his key points to wrap up.
I just have one question. What did you mean by giving back to the residents?
I understand that I got 3 to 6 minutes. I've spent 2 hours with Mike and these guys, 4 hours reviewing the budget, and I'm not going to get into whether or not Mary gets paid what or whatever it is. There's fundamental things in this budget that you've not done. For example, why is not in the budget the fire department and what we're doing about that issue? And I don't want to get into the detail, but I'm asking you when I see you in January and ask for the 5 items that you're going to work on, that's one of them. The other items to go through quickly, and you work your way through. Recreation is a big item in this township. $1.3 million is being spent. You hired a new recreation director. You need to have a job description of what that person was able to do. When you look at the recreation in the township, it's split all over. It's time we look at reuniting and get ourselves as one township. And when you look at that section in the budget, you've allocated no extra money for that type of an arrangement. That's all I'm saying. When you go and look at the administrative portion in the budget, there's nothing in there that I have one way or the other. Same thing with your insurance transfers, like I said previously. You did a good job on that. The treasurer's report, I'm assuming, is fully funded. Regarding the police bureau, when you read the police bureau's report, you are short at this time at least 3 officers, and I think hiring 3 more. I've had private conversations of what that problem is. That is a situation that this township has to address because you've allocated for it. And every meeting that you come here in January, February, March, and April, you should ask yourself, what are we doing to improve the municipality police department as far as number of officers and coverage? That's all I'm saying. I'm asking you to put that on your list for January. The other thing I mentioned already is fire. You get $300,000 from a fund. None of that I can find is used to benefit improving our fire department in the area of manpower or people power. That's all I'm asking, because you have the funds. The Development Bureau is fine. Your other one that you have here is the traffic control, public works. I'm not going to get into that. Recreation bureaus. You have in here for recreation bureaus. I don't see any money allocated towards Cement Park. Is there a reason why not?
because we are going to be going out to bid on that, if necessary, after the completion of the Recreation Comprehensive Plan.
So, that being said, that is 6 months behind before we start. The pools need work. We know that. There is nothing in your budget to deal with the fact that we need a study up in Cementon. It's not in here. Keep in mind that last year, every time I asked a question, they said it's not in the budget. Well, if these aren't in the budget, I can only assume they will not be addressed again. When I was referring to the $7,500, I was referring specifically that you called out Ellencrest, Egypt, Fullerton, Hockendackwa, and Shot Avenue, each receiving $7,500. It just stuck out that Cementon was not in that list. Is there a reason why?
Because the township has responsibilities for that park.
I understand. Thank you. Highway fund and the money that comes in, I'm not going to take the time to do that. I'm going to ask, as I'm flipping through this quickly, that we change our path going forward and start to look at how we can give back to the township residents in a little bit more detail than just looking at the budget and moving numbers back and forth. I've told you recently that this township is at a tipping point. I strongly believe that. I think your budget will tell you what you got to do in 2023. And I'm asking you nicely to please put your list together when I meet you in January and ask what you're considering to be important. Because when I go through your list, the areas that I do not see addressed specifically are these 8 items. Police department, volume, and I understand the hiring situation, and I acknowledge that, okay? Firefighters, nothing for that. Pools, no funding. In July, when everybody wants to know why they're closed, you didn't fund for it. Workman's comp, you did a very good job.
Pool, don't say all pools are closed, Ken.
You're right, my mistake.
The hockey pool is fully funded, open, ready to go.
Yes.
We're doing a $75,000 improvement in there? On the chemical tanks being replaced.
Right,
So
filter
the hockey
system.
pool is, there's a pool in the community.
I stand to be corrected. Okay. Workman's comp, you did a very good job. Our rating is below 100. Medical rebate, I told you about. What is the balance in the Lafarge account?
When the RACB money, the 1.5 million comes back to the township from the state, it will be 1.2 million.
So it's down to what right now today?
I have to check, but it's I think you had talked about 840,000.
That's a number.
I think it's about that number.
Okay. You also hired a full-time rec director in here.
Not yet.
I know. It's here in the list to be budgeted for. And I know you have a job description. One of the things that happened in 2022 is we have 3 branches of government. We have executive, we have legislative, and a treasurer. What really surprised me when I went through the budget, there was no funding to support the commissioners in any way with any type of staff in the event you want to find information out.
If I may say, we're now at 15
I
minutes
understand,
for
sir.
a 3-minute
I'm done in 2
thing.
seconds.
If this can be your final, I cannot speak for the president, but in the interest of what we need to accomplish tonight, look, everything you said, I got it. And I sincerely appreciate it. I
So
do.
the question is, did you have public budget meetings on this? Okay, fine.
They're advertised, they're on there all the time, anybody can show up.
I understand. I only saw the budget a week and a half ago. So that's what I want to bring together. I appreciate your efforts, and I hope in 2023, we can start working together instead of splintered in this township after the last 12 months. Thank you for your time.
For the sake of the public, the budget's public.
On the website.
Okay. I don't know about that.
Other questions from the floor? Please poll the board.
May I make one comment quick?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to say also that I'm really glad everyone's here tonight, because this is part of the civic process. Okay, so if you do have questions, that is why you're here, and that's what we're trying to address them. We are a large group, and I appreciate that, and I do want us to try to make sure that we can get everyone's point in at a good point. The budget was an important point of discussion, and I do sincerely appreciate Mr. Snyder's analysis of it. And if other people have that in the future, we will absolutely accept that. We are a community, we are working together. If you want to come to the budget hearings and see what we do firsthand, it's a public thing, you are more than welcome to come, and we invite you. That's all I have to say, thank you.
Thank you. Please poll the board.
Commissioner Dia? Yes. Commissioner Ginder? Yes. Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Sloniker, aye. Commissioner Warren? Aye. And President Marks?
Yes.
Bill passes 6 ayes, 0 noes.
Bill number 35-2022, an ordinance authorizing the acceptance of a proposal for the replacement and installation of new filtration tank at the Parkview Pool in accordance with Section 3.20 in the Home Rule Charter, which requires authorization of acquisitions in excess of $25,000 by ordinance. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it, Warren.
Any comments from the board? Any comments from the floor? Please poll the board.
Commissioner Sloniker, aye. Commissioner Warren? Aye. Commissioner Fisher? Aye. Commissioner Dia?
Yes.
Commissioner Ginder?
Yes.
President Marks?
Yes.
Bill passes 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill number 36-2022, an ordinance authorizing the acceptance of a proposal for the purchase of 2 2023 Dodge Charger vehicles and 1 Dodge Durango vehicle for the Police Patrol Division in accordance with Section 3.20 in the Home Rule Charter, which requires authorization of acquisitions in excess of $25,000 by ordinance. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
I'll second, Fisher.
Any comments from the board? Any comments from the floor? Please poll the board.
Commissioner Ginder?
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Warren? Aye. Commissioner Attia?
Yes.
Commissioner Sloniker, aye. President Marks?
Yes.
Bill passes 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill number 37-2022, an ordinance authorizing the acceptance of a proposal for the purchase of network hardware, including server, for the police department in accordance with Section 3.20 in the Home Rule Charter, which requires authorization of acquisitions in excess of $25,000 by ordinance. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions from the board? Any questions from the floor? Please poll the board.
Commissioner Sloniker, aye. Commissioner Attia?
Yes.
Commissioner Ginder?
Yes.
Commissioner Warren? Aye. Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
President Marks?
Yes.
Bill passes 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill number 38-2022, an ordinance authorizing the acceptance of a proposal for the purchase of a 2023 Ford F-350 4x4 truck for the Public Works Department in accordance with Section 3.20 in the Home Rule Charter, which requires authorization of acquisitions in excess of $25,000. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second, Fisher.
Any comments from the board? Any comments from the floor?
Yeah, I second it. Yeah. My mic is just, it's on and off.
It's okay. No, it's fine.
I'll talk.
Please poll the board.
Commissioner Ginder?
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Attia?
Yes.
Commissioner Warren? Aye. Commissioner Sloniker, aye. And President Marks?
Yes.
Bill passes 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill number 39-2022, an ordinance authorizing the acceptance of a proposal for the purchase of a 2023 Ford F-600 4x4 truck for the fire department in accordance with Section 3.20 in the Home Rule Charter, which requires authorization of acquisitions in excess of $25,000 by ordinance. Do I have a motion?
I'll move, Fisher.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions from the board? Any questions from the floor? Please poll the board.
Commissioner Fisher? Commissioner Attia?
Yes.
Commissioner Warren?
Aye.
Commissioner Sloniker, aye. Commissioner Ginder?
Yes.
President Marks?
Yes.
Bill passes 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill number 40-2022, an ordinance authorizing the reapproval of acceptance of a proposal for the purchase of a 2023 Ford F-350 4x4 truck for the fire department, in accordance with Section 3.20 in the Home Rule Charter, which requires authorization of acquisitions in excess of $25,000 by ordinance. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any comments from the board? Any comments from the floor? Please poll the board.
Commissioner Ginder? Yes. Commissioner Swaniger? Aye. Commissioner Warren? Aye. Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Attia?
Yes.
President Marks?
Yes.
Bill passes 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Bill number 41-2022, an ordinance deferring the required installation of curbing and sidewalk for 150 feet along the Shides Road frontage of 4129 and 4131 Shides Road as required in Chapter 21, Section 21-16 of the Codified Ordinances of Whitehall Township. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second, Fisher.
Any questions from the board? Any questions from the floor? Please poll the board.
Commissioner Ginder? Yes. Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Attia?
Yes.
Commissioner Warren?
Aye.
Commissioner Swaniger? I have to abstain, it's my next door neighbor. And President Marks?
Yes.
Bill passes 5 ayes, 1 abstention, 0 nays.
Public hearing and voting on resolutions. Resolution number 3215 is being pulled off the agenda tonight. Legal work was not completed on it, so that will not be read. Moving on, resolution number 3216, a resolution authorizing a Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development Commonwealth Finance Authority local share account, Northampton and Lehigh Counties grant for the historic Mickley Pride and Farm renovation Phase 3. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion, Warren.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any comments from the board?
Yeah, I do want to make a comment that Phase 1 is restoration of the roof and the soffit of both buildings and spouting. That's about 85% complete. That work's already started and nearly done. Phase 2 is the window work and treatment. That's fully funded by grants. Phase 3 would be the exterior of the brick or brick coat and starting to do the interior. And this grant focused on the things to make the building accessible at this time as far as getting in, using it, including framing, drywall repair, specialties, signs, toilets, accessories, plumbing, HVAC, and electrical. You asked if it includes the soup to nuts, Mr. Ginder, It does not. It doesn't include painting. There was a line item estimate of $40,000 in painting. I don't think it's going to cost that much to do that. That's something we would do in-house. But this is to get the place to where we can get inside. And you all received a copy of the packet, all the historic documents and new documents.
Any other questions from the board? Any questions from the floor? Please poll the board.
Commissioner Warren? Oh, I'm sorry. You have to come up, your name and address, please. Into the microphone.
If possible, please limit to 3 minutes.
Now, I didn't prepare a speech, okay? So you have to disregard all this
Please state your name and
paperwork.
address, sir, if you could.
Pardon?
Please state your name and address, if you could,
I'm
please.
sorry.
That's okay.
Carl Mickley, 7th generation of John Jacob Mickley. All I want to say is this.
State your address, sir.
Your address. Your address.
My address?
Yes, please, for the record.
Let's see, what is it? 3024 Oak Hills Drive, Northampton, Pennsylvania. I live in a condo unit. It's called Willow Green. Okay, now originally I'm from Allentown. I'm part of the Mickley branch that moved from Mickley's to Allentown back in 1895. Now, I'm not going to give you too much information other than the fact philosophically. Any society, every society, is built upon one concept, and that is history. If you don't have history, you have no society. And you can go back to the Roman times, the Greek times, any time. And I've seen too much around the Lehigh Valley of our history being destroyed. I saw the shot schoolhouse and well, a couple other places. Now, Allentown was lucky. They had their old houses, stone houses and whatever, but you see, they had the Trexler estate. And unfortunately, the Mickley branch that I belong to, we're not in that category. Okay. So if you want to restore this house, you'll probably need a little help from the taxpayer until a private association could be set up. But I think history is very important. It's in my family. Even the first wife I had before she died, she was a Canals from Emmaus. She was a descendant of Sebastian Canals. Okay. So I know all about those people. And I always call her the Canals who lived in a house from Emmaus. And but I think history is very important. I mean, I love history, even though I majored in English in college. And once you lose the history, well, just take the Kohlers. How about the Kohler mill up in Copley Creek there in Egypt? Gone. The house is gone. And I know it takes money to preserve these places. And unfortunately, I'm not as rich as the Fuller people are over and across the street from where I live, who have made millions of dollars off the taxpayers and the airport. So if I had 1/10 of their money, believe me, I would own that farm. And I would restore that farm. But I'm just a regular person, and I just have a name. And I know that when I ask people, well, you know where Mickley's PA is? Nah. You know where Mickley Road is? Nah. My own daughter didn't even know where Mickley Road was. But I'm giving a talk on April 26th, on a Friday at the Historical Society on the Mickley family. I mean, I know pretty much, but I don't know. I can tell you when Mickley, PA became Mickley, PA, according to the family, and when it was the last vestige of the Mickleys that ever owned anything in that village, and that was 1940, by the way, if you want dates. So, actually, I came here tonight, I thought we were having a little meeting, and I brought all kinds of paper, but I thought, am I in the right place here? I don't know.
Can I ask you one question, and just very concise? The owner of, in 1762, Adam Deschler sold it to John Jacob Mickley.
Oh, you want to know about that?
Well, from your research, that was John Jacob Mickley that helped transport the Liberty Bell up from.
Yeah, well, you know, when the immigrant came over here through Ole Valley, that was like this jumping off place for all these Pennsylvania Dutch people. All these names we have in Whitehall Township. And he settled in Egypt because the land was selling so well out of Ole Valley, which is outside of Reading. Okay, his oldest son, first American-born son, was John Jacob Mickley, Sr. He's the Liberty Bell guy. lived up in Egypt, born up there. In 1761, he bought a tract of land, I think it was like 130 acres or whatever, from Adam Deschler. He built a little stone house there, and it's still there, 1761. That was the tradition of the Pennsylvania Germans. I mean, if you're going to build a farmhouse, where are you going to live? You're not going to live in a tent. So they build these little houses, and they live in that until the farmhouse is built, which doesn't exist anymore on this property. 1764. And he lived there until 1808, and a tree fell on him.
Mr. Mickley.
But as it turned out, he was a first generation of Mickleys to live here.
Mr. Mickley. No, we sincerely appreciate what you've done. We sincerely appreciate the history. I myself may actually try to attend the event on April 26th. Do you have anything else specifically on
if I'm
this?
tying you up, I'm done.
Okay.
I mean, if you want to know any more, you have to come on April 26th.
I'll do that,
'Cause
sir.
I'll give you a little European history,
Yeah,
too.
sir, I minored in history. I'm very interested in history, so I'd be interested in learning more about it.
But I don't have much to talk about myself.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Hey, take care.
Thank you. Any more comments from the floor? Please poll the board.
Commissioner Warren? Aye. Commissioner Sloniker, aye. Commissioner Ginder?
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher? Aye. Commissioner Attia? Yes. President Marks?
Yes.
Resolution passes 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you.
Resolution number 3220, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the Township of Whitehall authorizing the waiver of additional charges for the late payment of real estate taxes in certain circumstances to comply with Act 57 of 2022. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions from the board? Any questions from the floor? Please poll the board.
Commissioner Ginder? Yes. Commissioner Sloniker, aye. Commissioner Warren?
Aye.
Commissioner Fisher? Aye. Commissioner Attia?
Yes.
President Marks? Yes. Resolution passes 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Resolution number 3221, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the Township of Whitehall reaffirming and reenacting the realty transfer tax, the earned income tax, the per capita tax, the local services tax, and the business privilege tax. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion, Warren.
Do I have a second?
I'll second Fisher.
Questions from the board? Any questions from the floor? Please poll the board.
Commissioner Warren?
Aye.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Attia? Yes. Commissioner Sloniker, aye. Commissioner Ginder?
Yes.
President Marks?
Yes.
Resolution passes 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Resolution number 3222, a resolution adopting the Township of Whitehall Capital Improvement Program 2023 to 2027, specifically for the 2023 fiscal year. Do I have a motion from the board?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any questions from the board?
Just a comment that you did say.
This is for the 2023 year. It's a living document, so next year we review it again. We update it as needed.
Any questions from the floor? Please poll the board.
Commissioner Sloniker, aye. Commissioner Ginder?
Yes.
Commissioner Attia? Yes. Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Warren?
Aye.
President Marks?
Yes.
Resolution passes 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Resolution number 3223, resolution of the Township of Whitehall Board of Commissioners authorizing the signing of a deed of easement for the granting of right-of-way in accordance with Pennsylvania Department of Transportation Highway Occupancy Application number 271431 related to improvements of Mechanicsville Road, SR 1012, segment/offset 0020/. 0084 2-segment / offset 0020/0155. Do I have a motion?
Can you repeat that? Do you want me to say it backwards?
Do I have a second?
Second, Fisher.
Any questions from the board? Any questions from the floor? Please poll the board.
Commissioner Attia? Yes. Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Warren? Aye. Commissioner Sloniker? Aye. Commissioner Ginder?
Yes.
President Marks?
Yes.
Resolution passes 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Resolution number 3224, a resolution conditionally approving the minor subdivision of the minor annexation plan for 4129 and 4131 Shides Road, located at 4129 and 4131 Shides Road. Index number 2010 or 2010-22A. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Any questions from the board? Any questions from the floor? Please poll the board.
Commissioner Ginder? Yes. Commissioner Attia? Yes. Commissioner Fisher? Aye. Commissioner Warren?
Aye.
Again, I'm going to abstain. Still the neighbor. It didn't move. And President Marks.
Yes.
Resolution passes 5 ayes with 1 abstention.
Resolution number 3226, a resolution authorizing and directing the mayor to enter into a tax collection services agreement with the Whitehall-Copley School District. Any questions from the board? Oh, I need a motion, I'm sorry. I'm delirious. I have a second. You move.
Who went first then? That's what he said, but I need a second.
You have a second, Mr. Attia.
Oh, okay, that's, okay.
Any questions from the board?
You know, your code went off, Mr. Secretary.
Yeah, you need to plug yourself in.
That Snyder guy talked too long. Blame it on him.
Any questions from the board? Any questions from the floor? Please poll the board.
Commissioner Sloniker, aye. Commissioner Attia?
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher? Aye. Commissioner Warren? Aye. Commissioner Ginder? Yes. President Marks?
Yes.
Resolution passes 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Resolution number 3227, a resolution authorizing and directing the mayor and Whitehall Township to enter into a settlement agreement regarding claims under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll move. I'll second.
Any comments from the board? Any comments from the floor? Mr. Pelagia? There's one back there, ma'am. You're next. Sorry.
Evening, Commissioners.
Please try to maintain a 3-minute time, sir.
Can you talk into the microphone?
It echoes pretty bad in the back and people can't hear it.
And again,
I'll talk a little louder.
What we need is for her to get it, that's all.
Will you be able to hear me? Yeah. Rob Pelagian, 415 Oakwood Drive. Good evening, Commissioners. As you're aware, I've been asking about the status of the allegations of sexual harassment by our Whitehall Township Mayor for over a year now, ever since the story became public in the news. I appreciate all the information provided by you, as was permitted by the law regarding such matters, and the work by Township staff to attempt to provide some forms of accounting several months ago. For this, I am grateful. With Resolution 3227, it appears that this dark chapter in the history of our township, Whitehall, may be coming to a close, at least if you vote to agree to this settlement. While the public has not been made privy to any of the terms of the settlement, the fact that the allegations have moved as far as they have, it is clear that someone impartial and not part of the politics of Whitehall Township, otherwise known as the mediator, has determined that the claims made by not one, not two, but 3 different women against the mayor have merit, and that inappropriate behavior was exhibited by him. I encourage each of you to view this settlement in the eyes of the victims and consider if the victims were your wives, your daughters, your mothers, your girlfriends, your family members, and ask yourself, how would you deal with this situation? Imagine the feelings these women have, what they have gone through, what coming to work on a daily basis is like. We know from a newspaper article that quoted a letter of referral by Deputy Mayor Jack Myers for one of the ladies just how low the morale at Whitehall Township was at the time. And I will briefly read a segment of that letter. This was a letter of referral for Ashley Nishon. More disturbing is the investigation of harassment against numerous employees by a high-ranking government official. She coordinated and led the investigation, she being Ashley, which culminated in a report issued by an independent legal counsel. This should have silenced the actions of this official, but the report did not end the conduct. It was at this point, I sincerely believe, Ashley reflected upon her personal circumstances and questioned, quote, the system, unquote. We currently have 2 government officials who have not been answerable to the public for their conduct. The backlash has taken its toll. As deputy mayor, I can state with absolute certainty that these are the darkest I've experienced, with morale at its lowest. It has taken a personal toll on Ashley. Thus, it was at this point Ashley resolved to leave her position, a decision which I reluctantly agreed and most assuredly support. That was the end of the quote. I need not remind you of the turmoil that the township was enduring the tenure of the last township treasurer, and when one adds in the harassment allegations that were going on at the time, it is easy to see how explosive and emotional it must have been for these women. I will say, I know 2 of the 3 victims, and they are good personal friends of mine with relationships predating the mayor's appointment by decades. These friends are good people, people who give of themselves to Whitehall Township, people who don't deserve to be treated in the way they have been treated. I will not name names. That is for them to choose to do so, if they do. For certain, I want to see them made whole as part of this resolution and implore your commissioners to vote to adopt this resolution. I highly recommend you put politics aside and vote your conscience. Don't think of your political future, but think of the well-being of these ladies. As for the mayor, I can only say that you need to resign immediately. It is clear that you are not a leader, especially based on the fact that many in the employ of the township have little to no respect for you, that your predatory behavior is clearly a hindrance for good governing. I recall that when the previous mayor resigned to move to the county and the search was on for a new mayor, you put your name in. Yes, I threw my hat in the ring too, mostly because at the time so few had applied. When the newly appointed mayor was named, I approached him, and you remember this, Mike. Had I known you were vying for the position, I would have not applied. I have come to deeply regret that statement, mostly for what has come to light with this investigation. I've likened it to, quote, welcome to the bad old days, unquote. Like my plea to the commissioners, mayor, do what's best for Whitehall Township and not for what's best to Mike Carrickle and leave. Your day is come and gone, and it's time for you to move on. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Position. Anyone else? Please come up, ma'am. Please state your name and address.
My name is Beth Wiltrout, 969 Catasauqua Road. And I would have to say I totally disagree with the previous speaker, but I just want to say I have known Mike Carrickle for approximately 50 years. He is one of the kindest and most caring men that I have ever known. I don't believe one word of the accusations these women have made, and I think it is terrible for them to ruin a good man's reputation. Mike was raised in Whitehall and has always done his best to make Whitehall a better place to live, and I just wanted to give my support to him.
Thank you. Please say your name and address.
Yes, I'm Annalie Guidish. I live at 5139 Grant Avenue. This is my uncle. He also was my volleyball coach at one point. I have friends who went to Whitehall, and I know 100% that he is a wonderful guy, and no one has ever brought accusations, even on the volleyball court, against this guy. To think that he's doing something here in this township building as an older man who is weathered and wise, I think it's absolutely ridiculous. I am so upset for my family and everyone who knows him so well at this wonderful uncle. Just so upset. And I think that these are unfounded. I think these are people who just want him out of here. And I think that this is absolutely ridiculous. And the fact that you gave him 15 minutes to say something, you just wanted everyone to know how terrible everything is. Just so it's like, just get him out of here. I just think it's absolutely terrible. So thank you for listening, and I don't believe those women.
Thank you. Mr. Snyder? Please state your name and address.
Ken Snyder, 4272 Abigail Lane. I have no comments on what other people reviewed or didn't review. A judgment was made, and whatever it is, it's in the legal system. The question I have is, in most judgments, there's also a protocol of procedures that have to be followed going forward. I'm making the assumption, attorney solicitor, that there are protocols. And in the last 12 months, there's been discussions whether the protocols previously were enforced or not enforced. And at that time, it was discussed that the commissioners don't have control over that. And because our charter is kind of in a unique situation, how can we feel assured that the parties that are involved, the proper ramifications or controls are going to be put in place? And I guess that's a question really for the Board of Commissioners and Mike, because it doesn't make a difference, right or wrong. There is a list of things that most likely have to be done. That's my concern moving forward. How will that be handled?
I can assure you on behalf of the Board of Commissioners, and I think I speak for all the membership, we have to take this agreement seriously, and it's binding, and we will address each issue as necessary to make sure that we are compliant with the agreement.
I understand, but in the previous conversations we've had, and the solicitor will remember this, I think, there's the executive branch and there's the legislative branch. And at times in the last 12 months, it was stated that's handled under the executive branch. How is that bridge going to be taken care of? Because in the last 12 months, it has not. We know it. On different issues. I don't care what we talked about. Not only this, it always came back to the two branches. How are we going to be making sure that's done moving forward?
I'm going to defer to the solicitor with that question.
I'm not sure I completely understand the question, but I'll try and answer as best I can, Mr.
Sure.
Snyder. And I'm not going to discuss the terms of
I
the
agree.
agreement. There is an agreement that is submitted for the board's approval. If it is approved, there are certain terms that it is going to be my obligation as solicitor, working with outside counsel, working with the deputy mayor to ensure that they are implemented, and I intend to make sure that happens.
So under our charter, you've told me more than once about the two branches. The deputy mayor has been mentioned several times, rightfully so. But the mayor's position is still his superior. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So all I want to make sure is that whatever happened in the past, moving forward, that this does not continue and everybody's accountable for what's in that document, so the procedures are followed. Am I making myself clear what I'm trying to say? I don't want the branches mixed up. Phil?
I kind of understand where you're coming from.
I'm trying to run the fine line here.
It's a fine line, and unfortunately or fortunately, we can't comment on the things that are under this agreement at this point.
Does our charter allow the Board of Commissioners to review our executive branch to verify that the items are being done? Or is it the executive branch that's responsible for enforcing whatever's in the document?
The agreement is an agreement of the township. The township agrees to it, and you're correct. In general, it is the administration that acts to implement that. Again, I can only say that I, as township solicitor and from conversations I've had with the administration, if this is approved, it's going to be implemented.
I understand, and I just want to make sure that the right side isn't taking care of the left side, because this is different, where there's people's lives that have been affected through this process, and I don't want to see it where we have to go through this process again, that either the deputy mayor would be responsible as compared to the mayor to enforce this, and I don't know if that's possible. Is that possible? He does a lot of other stuff, so I didn't know. Okay.
Mr. Schneider, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be difficult.
No.
Again, there's an agreement, and I can't go into the terms
I
of
don't
the
want
agreement.
to know the terms.
But unfortunately, your question would require that. It is specific as to some things that the township is agreeing to do, and I would say as township solicitor, if the board approves it and the mayor signs it, it's going to be implemented. That's it. There's nothing more. I mean, I don't know how else to answer the question.
So in a private world, if a president does something wrong in a company, the vice president will work their way through the process. And I understand the legal arrangements. I want to make sure that this is implicated, or if it can be passed down to the deputy mayor for enforcement, then it keeps all parties neutral.
There's a big difference here, though, Ken. You have elected people, and when we have the deputy, it's a non-elected position. This agreement does not say anybody's guilty or not guilty.
I understand that.
It has nothing, everybody's made up their mind, though. They hear this and that, and all of a sudden they assume things. There's nothing to assume right now, because we don't have anything bad took place or good, or what. We don't have that. Simple as that.
I'm not assuming that anybody's guilty or not. What I am saying is that the parties that are involved, a neutral party, should be the person to be responsible to work their way through this. And I don't want to sit here 2 months from now and someone say, like we did in the past, well, that's the executive branch's responsibility.
Yeah, Mr. Schneider, this has to be implemented. When this agreement is signed and codified, we're obligated by law to, we're obligated to fulfill whatever commitments we made on behalf of the agreement. So
Mike,
I
you
can assure
understand what
you
I'm saying?
it will be done.
I understand what you're saying, and I agree with your concerns.
That's all I'm saying.
Understood.
So I'll just like to go on record to that effect. And if I'm going to ask the solicitor to please make sure that the residents of the township are hereby protected, that this is not implemented incorrectly, so we don't have problems going forward.
Absolutely.
That's all I want to know on the record. Thank you.
Any more questions from the floor? Please come up and state your name and address, please.
My name is Jane Dolvin, and I live at 3229 Clearstream Drive in Whitehall. I have known Mike my whole life. I do understand that there are conversations here that were, the man who spoke first implied his guilt. I do not want that to be either way. We all know from regular settlements of cases that there's no assumption that you're just choosing what to do with this situation. I believe Mr. Snyder was saying he wants to make sure that the township has things in place so no one is victimized in the township, and that includes men in the township too who could be falsely accused of something. So we do have to address that, and I assume that's part of what's going to happen in the end. But I do want to say that I've known Mike my entire life, since I was probably in 4th grade. I have lived in Whitehall my whole life. I am a school nurse in Whitehall. Mike has never once, I've never seen him once do anything off character. He has never told even a dirty joke or an inappropriate joke to me, only dad jokes. We babysat for him. We were at his house all the time. And he spent more time educating us to be better people than he did to put us down in any way. We really had a wonderful childhood when we added Mike's knowledge and Judy, his wife's knowledge, to our lives. They really helped us and supported us as we were kids growing up. And I appreciate that, and I understand accepting this is just a normal part of life, but I do want to say that in every story, there's two sides, and we don't know any side of the story. I don't, at least, and I don't want to know. You just have to move forward from here. But thank you, everyone, very much for letting me talk, and I'm definitely not a public speaker.
Well, thank you. Any more comments from the floor? Mr. Morrow, please say your name and address.
Thank you, Mr. Marks. Blake Marles. I live in Macungie. I'm here. In this context, our firm is representing Mr. Harricold in this proceeding. I just want to make sure that everybody understands what the point of a mediation is. The board certainly does, the solicitor certainly does, and the litigants certainly do. This is not a situation where one side or the other wins. This is a situation where the parties intentionally got together, and the parties in this case being the board, Mr. Harricold, and the women, to try to see if they could come up with an outcome that everybody can live with. So if everybody signs that agreement, it's something that everybody believes is in the best interest of the township. And what's in the best interest of the township is for those people who work here and have worked here well, can work here in a situation where they're comfortable continuing to work here. And that was the goal. And we don't have the terms of the agreement because it hasn't been signed. I've instructed Mr. Harricold not to speak, so he can't respond to the things that have been said. The women who were involved in the process have not spoken. They've not politicized this issue. This isn't the kind of thing that ought to be politicized. But I think that if everyone accepts the agreement, the outcome will be that people can move forward and the township can function more effectively than it has. So I'm not here to advocate specifically for the terms of the agreement. That's for you guys to decide, and the women who were involved and Mr. Harricold to decide. I'm here to suggest to you that the fact that people came together in mediation suggests that there's an outcome that's appropriate for everybody.
Thank you. Any more comments from the floor? Mr. Grimm?
Chris Grimm, 2230 North Lehigh Avenue. A few really quick questions. They should be pretty simple to answer. Without disclosing, is the township going to be required to pay financial, any type of financial things to basically will any money be coming out of the township coffers for this agreement?
Defer to our solicitor with that question.
I can't disclose the terms of the agreement at this point because I can't answer that question because even to answer it would disclose terms of the settlement at this point because it has not been approved.
Okay. So you're asking you're asking the board and the public, which is our money, to approve something that we don't know what the financial impact could be, if there is any.
The board is aware of it when they are voting.
Okay.
The board has seen the agreement.
Okay.
The agreement is not public because it hasn't been approved at this point.
Okay.
Because if it isn't approved, this matter would need to proceed.
Okay. Will it be made public after the fact if all parties have signed it?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any more comments from the floor? Ma'am, come up.
Good evening. My name is Denise Continenza, and I live at 4802 Beach Drive in Whitehall. I didn't actually come prepared with anything to talk about tonight, but I couldn't let the evening go by without sharing my personal experiences with Mayor Mike. I've worked with him for about the past 6, 7 years on the Communities That Care Coalition here in Whitehall, which I'm the community mobilizer for. Also with the Whitehall Area Rotary Club, Mike and I are always working on, and Judy and our whole club. I have been alone in Mike's office. I've been with him in conference rooms. We've been at each other's houses. Never once did I ever feel intimidated, threatened, or uncomfortable in any way. Mike is a man of high integrity, an incredible leader. We've accomplished so much in our community under his leadership and working together on things like Rotary projects. I'm asking that, that integrity shine forth as you make your decision as to how this whole situation should be settled. But I just couldn't let the night go by without speaking about the integrity that I see and the incredible leadership that Mike brings to Whitehall Township. So I thank you for your time. I wish you the best in making your decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions from the floor? Please state your name and address, please.
Sure. My name is Elizabeth Lenhart. I live at 51 Siegfried Deal Road in Kutztown. And I didn't have anything.
Excuse me.
Sure.
Did you say Harhart?
Lenhart with an L.
Lenhart, okay.
L-E-N.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
Sure, no worries. I didn't come with anything prepared to say, but listening to everyone speak, I felt compelled to just chip in my 2 cents. This is my Uncle Mike. I have known him my entire life, and he is a pillar in our family and in our community. I have a very hard time thinking of anyone other than my parents, of course, that has been, and Aunt Judy, she is encapsulated in this response. Anyone that has been more supportive and encouraging to me on a personal level in my life. I am extremely proud of my Uncle Mike, and I think I speak for my entire family when I say that we love and support him, and we are all extremely proud of everything that he has accomplished and that he has handled this entire situation with unfounded dignity and grace. And we will always support and love you. And that's all. Thank you.
Any more questions from the floor? Sir? Please state your name and address, please.
My name is Douglas Wiltrout, W-I-L-T-R-A-U-T, 969 Catasauqua Road in Whitehall. I've been a resident of Whitehall, I'll say Fullerton, born and raised. Mike and I both came from large Fullerton families. I've known Mike my whole life. We were on the track team together at Whitehall. I was hopefully helpful in your first term as executive and through the latest term as mayor. And we have shared a good part of our lives together as very dear friends. You can count on my fingers the amount of friends that I have, and Mike is one of the dearest ones. I find it very interesting that through his 4-year term as executive, and now through all the years of being a volleyball coach, with traveling female teams and all that stuff, nothing like this has ever come forth until this recent flurry of accusations. Character assassination, defamation of character, slander, whatever you want to call it, they all seem to apply in this situation. Mike, from the high school years, he's been a pillar. Everyone looked up to him. And this is a tragedy for the township. Mike has devoted himself to the township through the acquisition of the parkway during the first term. And I'm crushed by all this. It's my feeling that the township and the people of the township can be very thankful for the leadership that he's given. And I hope everything just works out for the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more comments from the floor? Okay. Please poll the board.
Commissioner Sloniger, aye. Commissioner Ginder?
Yes.
Commissioner Warren? Aye. Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Attia? Yes. And President Marks? Yes. Resolution passes 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Resolution number 3228, a resolution authorizing and directing the mayor and Whitehall Township to enter into a settlement agreement regarding the tax assessment appeal, Home Depot USA Incorporated, and the property known as 1350 MacArthur Road. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
I'll second Fisher.
Any comments from the board? Any comments from the floor? Please poll the board.
Commissioner Ginder?
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Warren? Aye. Commissioner Sloniger, aye. Commissioner Attia?
Yes.
And President Marks? Yes. Resolution passes 6 ayes, 0 nays.
Under other, a motion to approve the Whitehall Township / School District Tax Collection Services Agreement. Table, okay.
It's not tabled.
Okay, we're good, okay. Number 2, the approval and ratification of collective bargaining agreement by and between Whitehall Township and the Whitehall Police Bargaining Unit. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A fight over